tuned into Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
It's match week!
Let's go.
I'm very excited.
Yes.
Hello, this is RBLR Sun FC. My name is Liz. This is JD. He's special to the pod. JD, how you doing?
It's match week. That's
It's
how
match
I'm
week.
doing. That's the official answer. I'm good. Feel good. Excited. Apprehensive isn't the best word. I'm actually feeling pretty good. We'll get into part of why with some new signings. But I mean, we're going to watch the Sun play soccer in less than a week. And that's all I can ask for. Something to look forward to.
When this comes out,
postponed.
it'll be 3 days.
Yes, I'm very excited. I'm doing good. I feel good. I'm ready. Liz, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I actually went out last Friday and I was hanging out with the Sunshine Squad,
Ooh.
which is the part of the Tampa Bay Sun Foundation. I literally just saw that they were doing a volunteer clinic, or a clinic for, they needed volunteers, excuse me, like 10 minutes from my house. And I was like, yeah, I could go do that. Did I have any idea what I would actually be doing? Not a clue. Not like in my head, it should have been like, oh, Lizzie, you're going to do drills. Didn't occur to me. Didn't wear the right shoes for this at all. Still went great, and I had a wonderful time. And the staff were wonderful. The coaches that they had there for the kids were great. The kids themselves were great. They were so excited to be there. Although there was this one older kid who was like, "When are we gonna do scrimmage? When are we gonna do soccer?" And I was like, it's funny because I got to be like, "This is the soccer. This makes up the soccer."
We're soccering right now.
We're soccering right now. It's crazy. He didn't like
That's
that
lit.
answer.
That's lit. That sounds like a good time.
Yeah. So definitely check out Tampa Bay Sun. Oh, here we go. Tampa Bay Sun Foundation. I literally just opened up one of their emails and was like, oh, look at the volunteer opportunities. They have a bunch. It's super fun. My knees kind of hurt the next day, which definitely means I probably need to do more of them.
Yeah, when's the adult clinic to get us all moving around?
All right. So it is match week. Like I said, when this comes out, we will be just T-minus 3 days to the Sun playing in Dallas. But before we get to that, one thing first is we will have a watch party. It is put on by the team. It is at Coppertail Brewing. It starts at 8 p.m. I believe, because the game is at 8:30. So I'm gonna be there. JD's gonna be there. So I don't know what more reasons you need to be there, because we'll be there.
Boom. But also
signing autographs, obviously.
Yeah, well, if you win the signed jersey that they're giving away, I think
we'll also sign it. Yeah,
we'll also
sign
it. Or if it's not a signed jersey, maybe they're just giving away the new jersey.
Yeah,
we'll sign that too. We'll sign anything.
It. Just immediately decreases in value.
Ask me to sign something. Yeah, it seems like it's going to be a good time. They've done a few events, and like for the World Cup ones, I mean, it was pretty simple. They just had a tent, kind of a raffle sign up, some giveaway goodies. I have like a paper fan and stuff like that. I think for their own event, for their own game, I think it'll be a little bit more. There'll be a little bit more in the budget. So there should be some good production, and also just a chance to see everybody's smiling faces watching some Sun soccer for the first time in a while. I'm very excited, and it was definitely a can't miss when they announced that they were doing that watch party. So looking forward to it.
And speaking of the giveaway, we have a new kit.
Yeah, we do. What do you think, Liz? How do you feel about it?
I love it. I think it's gorgeous. I think that we went like almost more of a fashion-y kit route, and I am 1,000% here for it. Like, I can't wait to wear this to work, honestly, because it's going to be so cute.
Yeah. So the details are, it's the La Septima kit. It's inspired by the Colombia's historic tiles. I don't know if they're Cuban in origin. I should have looked it up. But just the Ybor Colombia restaurant style tiles with the patterns on them. Those go down the side of the kit, and then also on the cuffs, on the sleeves. I think that adding it to the cuffs on the sleeves just makes the whole thing. It's such a great detail, and it looks excellent. And also, I was at work last week, and one of my coworkers was wearing Morocco's away kit the home kit from the World Cup, the men's World Cup, and it's a red, and it has a similar kind of pattern on the sleeve that's contrast color. I want to say it's either green or white, and it looks excellent. Now, Morocco's kit is like a Nike national team kit, so that one is definitely a lot more going into it in terms of design. But with what we have to work with, with Capelli, I think we hit on a very similar, just like extremely stylish look. And it was getting some love from around the kit world too. I saw some posts on Instagram from pages that post kits and style, football style related things, and it was getting some love there. So definitely came out really nice. I feel like it could have gone wrong with it's a busy pattern really, and they used it like just enough to make it look really good. So I'm really happy with that as a follow-up to what I thought was our excellent first home kit with like the subtle team logo pattern. This is a very cool follow-up. Pre-orders will be available at the watch party on Saturday, but I think they're live on the website as well. So you can just order it on TampaBaySports.com, I believe, is where all of the Sun merch is officially from the team. So you can pre-order it there, or I think you can win one at the watch party also. They're doing a giveaway. Very excited to see them in person because they always hit a little bit different. We know there's like a light kind of very low like contrast two-tone blue vertical stripe pattern in the middle too, and then there's also kind of like a diamond plate texture to it. I think that's more of like the material of the kit. It's not necessarily a design choice, and so I'm curious how all of that looks in person because the photos are obviously edited to make different elements pop in different photos, and I think it'll be cool once it's in sunlight. Once you actually see it on somebody, it might even look better. So excited to see it in person actually.
Yeah, no, I think this definitely has to go in the top 5 like Super League kits. Which I was just thinking we should absolutely like do that at some point.
Yeah. We're on the last week of the off season. You think of good off season content.
Yeah, the things I think of, now, because I was like, oh man, yeah, DC had that lightning bolt kit. That's really, really good.
I mean, Dallas has always been simple, but they like are clean, effective. So I think we're touching on that a little bit with this one.
Yeah, this is a nice kit. I definitely think if you haven't go look at pictures if you haven't. They really hit it out of the park with this one. It was very exciting. Also very exciting, we have signings.
We have a lot of signings.
They have given us these signings like 3 weeks ago when we were picking at crumbs for information. No, they're going to give it all to us now. And we're going to jam pack them all into this episode because what we do have coming up later is an interview with President Christina Unkel. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But for right now, we are going to we got 4 signings today. Yeah, 4. They were just like, haha, you know what? Here's all the signings.
Unfortunately, it's going to be 5. Not when this episode comes out, but maybe when you listen to it, because right before we started recording, they posted a teaser and they used the gloves emoji in it. That makes me feel like it's a goalkeeper. So once you listen to this, it may already be out. Check the team social or look out for it on the Wednesday this comes out, the 12th, August 12th. Because they teased another signing. So we'll have 5 total. We can't tell you about her yet. We don't know who she is, but presumably a third string, maybe development or youth, or maybe a starting keeper. And we got a banger signing and it's last minute. I don't know, but expect a goalkeeper signing tomorrow. None of these 4, they have announced our goalkeepers, but we're about to tell you all about them now. If you want to get started, Liz.
Sure. So we hinted about this one from our scrimmage episode. So if you haven't gone and listened to that, excellent episode, by the way. We had a guest, my boyfriend, Mike, who was actually able to attend. He covered it in great detail, great length. He's very technical, as JD said, great soccer watcher. So if you haven't listened to that, I highly recommend going back and at least giving that a listen. But we have Reagan Raby, which I believe we definitely said her name wrong. So sorry about that. We figured it out between now and then. Honestly, I was just waiting for the game notes. I was like, oh, we get game notes soon. Then we'll have the pronunciations for everything.
Well, the pronunciations are in there, and then the Super League broadcasters still get them wrong sometimes too. So
Yeah,
as long as we get it right, then I feel good about how we handle it.
All right. So Reagan Ravy, she is a winger. And I'm gonna kind of jump around with her history a little bit, but there's a point to it, don't worry. So her previous club was the Orlando Pride. She was on a short-term contract just from March to June. She only has 2 appearances. Okay, so how did she build to getting to the Orlando Pride? She has had quite the story, quite the trials and tribulations. So she tore her right ACL in her sophomore year of high school. The following year, she captained her team to the NSAA, which is the Nebraska School Activities Association, which I just think is a really funny thing that exists, and I love it. I'm here for it. Yeah. And she scored 21 goals and had 11 assists and was named the Nebraska Gatorade Player of the Year. Which, like, it sounds like a kind of a silly award, but like best in all of Nebraska. It's not nothing.
Yeah.
So she went on to the University of Nebraska Lincoln, and she played her freshman year, earning a handful of caps, not too many, moving up to starting every match and leading the team in goals and assists in her sophomore year. Her junior year had similar successes, but right before the Big Ten tournament, she tore her MCL. They did not say which one, so. In spring 2023, after she had just healed this, she tore her right ACL again and missed what would have been her senior season.
Damn.
Okay, and then right after this, in spring 2024, she tore her left ACL in less than 10 minutes into her return into a preseason match, forcing her to miss a second consecutive season. She considered retiring altogether, but returned for her 6th and final season. She started all 18 matches, scored 4 goals, 6 assists. And now we have come to today, where she plays for us now.
Wow. Well, if nothing, she's not determined.
Yes. I guess our new strategy is just no ACLs. If you have no ACLs, you can't tear it.
Was that like, we didn't retain Yuki because she didn't have enough ACL tears in her history? Is that what that we needed one with more? That's a pretty insane story.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Orlando saw something, and she didn't make a lot of appearances there. I mean, obviously, NWSL is a very high level. So,
which is kind of insane now. I bet they wish they had her now, because Orlando is like... They don't have Barbara Banda because she's off at WAFCON doing Barbara Banda things.
She's tearing it up
and
over
the
there.
whole town. Yeah, the whole team is just like shit to bed.
Yeah. Damn. Well, we have her now. That's very exciting.
Yes.
So then, after Reagan, they announced Millie Ravening, who's an attacking midfielder from England. She's English. She's only we're counting the Canadians as internationals. I'm not sure we need to in terms of international slots. Like, Jordan Listro has been a resident in the United States for a long time, so I don't know how those count. So I'm saying nothing here. But we have 3 Canadians, and then in terms of internationals, we didn't really have that much going on, and we signed an English player. So Millie comes from the greater Manchester area, and actually you'd be like, oh, what side of the Manchester Derby does she fall on? She played for both in the youth system. She started with United and then went to City. So very funny. She's no stranger to being in rivalries, because that came back later in her career as well, but just not in Manchester. What she did do is sign with Burnley in 2021 and joined, they were playing in the National League North at the time, which is technically the National League represents the 3rd and 4th tier. Burnley was in National League North, which is the 3rd tier, definitively North and South. So she played there in 2021. She started in 2022. She was the joint top goal scorer in the league, the National League North. And that was 30 goals in 31 games. Very impressive tally. And those numbers earned her Player of the Season award. So very impressive that she was able to do that only in her second year as a professional. She brought a lot there, but Burnley did not earn promotion at that point. Then in 2024, she signed for Stoke City. She wanted a new challenge and she left Burnley, and actually for Stoke City scored against Burnley a few times in notable games. And so she kind of kicked up some dust around that. 26 goals in 31 games at Stoke City in 2024. Another fantastic tally, especially for a midfielder, an attacking midfielder, not a striker. Then in 2025, she switched up again, went back to Burnley. Crazy. And she scored on the last day of the season against Stoke again, twice. And this time, she was not only just the National League North highest goal scorer in the year. Again, they had an undefeated season, and they won the league and earned promotion into the Women's Super League 2, which is the second division of English soccer for women. So incredibly impressive season in 2025. She killed it. I think in their last 8 games, they went 26-0, like goals scored. Yeah, they were unbelievable.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they were a great team last year. And she was again the player of the season. So great team, earned promotion, and she's player of the season. She's leading that charge. She's a very impressive player to me. And it's almost like a coup that we got her, in my opinion. Burnley did announce, and this is something that if you're an American soccer fan, you might not know how English teams are, but Burnley announced all the players that they offered contracts to for the next season, for this coming season. This was the season ending 25-26. So that just wrapped up for her. They offered her a contract to play in the Women's Super League 2 in the second division in England, and she opted out. She said she did not want to return to Burnley, and now she's here with us. I don't know if we were in the conversation for her opting out. Something that caught my interest was her TikTok bio says, that she is English, but also that she is experiencing and exploring the USA. So maybe coming over to the States, maybe trying to show her stuff to be more visible to NWSL coaches. Maybe she's looking for a move into one of the best women's leagues in the world. Obviously, I mean, any player would not turn down the opportunity to play in NWSL. And maybe she sees the Sun as an opportunity to break into that market, because I think she is that caliber player or is working towards that level. So I am very impressed that we got this deal done. From last year, we knew that we missed out on some really great opportunities, and it seems like we did better on converting those this year, at least from some of these signings. So that's Millie Ravening. It looks extremely promising. I'm very excited to have her as part of the team. And yeah, this just adds to the whole conversation about where the USL Super League fits in the international conversation. A player just opted to play here instead of in the Super League 2. Is that an individual player's decision, or is that a sign of how much USL Super League has improved? It remains to be seen, but something to keep an eye on. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So the Sun seem to have a type. That type is the NCAA goals per game leader. So we signed Eleanor Dale. She is a forward. And she was the NCAA goals per game leader in 2023. And if you missed it in a previous episode when we talked about Erica Chippy, who was the 2025, and Faith Weber, who was the 2024 recipient, and Katarina Macario, the 2019 recipient. And if you go look it up, there's tons. So it's a prestigious award that has been won by many notable players. So I love that this is our type. I'm here for it. I hope this pays off. So Eleanor Dale actually overlapped with Regan Raby for her 3 years at Nebraska. In her senior year in 2023, she led the country with 28 goals, winning the Big Ten Conference and won Big Ten Conference Forward of the Year. She made 6 appearances for Sunderland in their 2023-2024 season. Everton. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. That was Everton. And then she signed with Sunderland in 2024. She got 7 goals and 11 appearances. And then she came to us.
Another English player.
I love it. I'm a little disappointed in, I guess, our diversity in the team this season. But that also means the flag bag is a lot lighter.
There are 3 flags in the flag bag. This one. Is it 3 or 4?
It's
Okay.
4 with the U.S. flag.
Well, yeah. So. Well, who knows? Maybe our goalkeeper will be from an interesting country that isn't primarily red and white on their flag, because also all of our flags are red and white.
Yeah.
And blue if you're the U.S. Our last signing that has been announced thus far, just announced earlier today, is a loan from within the Super League. They said it couldn't be done. Actually, it's happened many times. But it is Daria Raji. Now, you may recognize her name because, well, she just won the championship with Lexington. She joined them in February. She played, I think she played in every game. She definitely started the final, and they won the championship. So congrats to Daria. Well deserved. We know Lexington was a great team, but interesting tidbit, she also played against us when we won the championship. She was on Fort Lauderdale United. So she is one of 2 players in the Super League to have started both championship finals. There's only been 2, and her and Addie McCain are the 2 players who started in both. And also, interestingly, they both went from Fort Lauderdale to Lexington, and they lost the championship, and then they won the championship. So as much beef as I may have, she plays for us now. No worries. Speaking of beef, well, she's originally from Gainesville. I don't really care about that. She is a UCF alumni. That's the ops, man. But again, now she plays for the Sun. Actually, she's a UCF alumni from 2018 to 2023. She played, theoretically, against Denise Schulte-Brown and her USF
Oh,
Bulls.
wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
So, I think I've said in the past, anytime you do good against DSB, she's signing you at one point in the future. You don't know when. It could be any time. Keep a lookout. And now she plays for Sun. So I'm over the UCF thing. Go Bulls. In 2023, she played for Turbine Potsdam, FFFC Turbine Potsdam. They're in the Frauen Bundesliga in Germany. And in 2023 to 2024, she played for SFF Damiens. Yeah, sure. In Portugal. She was globetrotting because an American league below the NWSL didn't exist. We've talked in the past about how the Super League is providing opportunities for American players to play in the US and not have to be NWSL caliber. Once the USL Super League started up, she joined Fort Lauderdale United. And from 2024 to early 2026, or maybe the end of 2025, December, I think her contract would have ended. She started in the Super League final there, and she played many, many minutes. Then in February 2026, she was signed mid-season to Lexington. I already told you that story. She went to the final and goddamn won it. So it's very interesting that Lexington, who started this player in their championship winning final only a few months ago, is giving her up on loan to a title rival. I'm saying it now. Hopefully a title rival. I don't know. I didn't really look into how much Lexington has added to their midfield, but Daria is well respected and definitely contributed to 2 teams 2 years in a row having success and getting as far as they did, all the way to the final both times. So we're just going to keep the streak alive, write it down, screenshot this. Tampa Bay Sun are appearing in the 2026 fall season, whatever we're calling it, sprint season final, because we got to keep up Daria's 100% success rate of being in the USL Super League final. Very interesting that we are having her join us on loan from Lexington, and I love to see it. She is a very solid player, and I can't wait to see how. I think our midfield's stacked. We added 2 midfielders today, and we already had a couple really great ones, and we also kept Jordan Listro, who is one of the best too. So I literally have no idea how we will line up, but I will be pretty fulfilled with any combination of those players that we have available.
Yeah, it's a thinker, that one. I admit that I also haven't really been following exactly who Lexington's been picking up, but we will see this weekend. Everyone is playing on Saturday, so we will get a little taste of what everybody's lineup looks like for our match previews and stuff. So that'll be good. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get to our interview with Christina Unkel. But before we do that, you should go to shop.rblrsports.com and use promo code HEATWAVE for 10% off everything. Look at how good I'm getting at this. HEATWAVE at shop.rblrsports.com. If you need t-shirts for any of our local Tampa Bay sports, we have all of them. All of them. You have no excuses.
Sicko shit.
Yep. All right. And we teased it earlier. It's what you've been waiting for. She is an attorney, an entrepreneur, a former FIFA referee, spent over 15 years at the elite level of global soccer. You've seen her most recently helping cover the World Cup as a rules analyst on ITV. She also happens to be the president and general manager of your Tampa Bay Sun FC. She is Christina Unkel.
Let's go.
Hi.
And one thing real quick. Hi, a little bit of shout out to our group here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's upside down.
That's
yeah. So we got our peoples. We got our peoples, the heat wave. Let's go.
Awesome.
Yes. Welcome. And thank you so much for taking some time out of your, as you said, very busy day leading up into the first game. When this airs, it'll be 3 days away.
T-3, right? So we have our countdowns for sure. Obviously, the opening game is incredibly important, right? It sets the level, it sets the tone, always does so. But yeah, we're also really excited about the home game opener as well too on September 12th. So there we have a T- day for that too. I think it's not like 34, 35, but not that I stress out the team or anything by that.
Not that you're counting the minute.
Yeah, literally.
Well, to get started, I wanted to ask you about not Sun related. How was working the World Cup for ITV, and how did you feel about the tournament overall, the Men's World Cup this past summer?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually been asking a lot of people the reverse, because when you're working a tournament and you're in studio and you're inundated with it, sometimes I think we kind of get jaded to a certain extent, where everyone still goes on with their daily lives and we're living and breathing it and talking about it 24/7. And so for many people who might not know, so in the United States, I predominantly work for CBS. And so I do have an exclusion with them. So whenever Fox has a big tournament, I have to go outside. And that's been great because it's actually created an opportunity to work for ITV, which is in the UK, you have BBC and ITV, and they equally split rights for major tournaments because in their country, the World Cup is a major interest of the entire nation. So nobody gets exclusive rights. So they each get to show the World Cup, and they split the games, right? So I think it was 52-52 if we had 104 games. But the experience is incredible. This is the second time I worked with ITV. I worked with them in the men's Euros. And what I mean by that is it's mind-blowing to say that I play pickup soccer with Roy Kent and Gary Neville, right? Right. We had Patrick Vieira with us. It's just Ian Wright is always there hooting and hollering at us. It's so many name drops, and I get that, but at the same time, they're also humans who love this game and yes, have played at a high level. So to be able to, I guess, diversify the talent that I get to work with, right? I get the honor of working in CBS and Champions League and Thierry Henry and Jamie Carragher, Micah Richards, and so on. And Kate, Kate Scott, sorry, I'm still switching from Kate Abner to Kate Scott mentally. It's been a year, but to be able to work with those people who play the game at such a high level and such high stakes game, and to get their perspective on it, we live, eat, and breathe it every day. So that's why I was kind of saying, I'm curious from you guys on a fan side of it, because when you are working on it on a talent side, when you're talking about the narratives, when you're working through the stories, and this World Cup was special. And not many people realize that the United States has hosted / co-hosted more men's and women's senior World Cups than any other country, total of 4. Right? 2 men's, 2 women's. The next group is Germany, who's done 3. And right, we still have the Women's World Cup that's coming up too. So it's just, to me, it was special where, everyone says, soccer in the United States is still a young thing. And it's we've been entrusted to hold some of the biggest tournaments. Whether we should have been trusted or not is a whole different discussion. Either way, though, those of us who love the game, it was a blessing to be able to work that, honored to work that. Lived in Dumbo, so I was sounds like a troll. I was under the Brooklyn Bridge there on studio, which was incredible. They built a brand new studio. It overlooked the water. It looked right into everything. And so it was really cool. Like, I think probably the one pinch me moment is like me and Zidane is like 5 feet away eating breakfast. And I'm sitting here like, I can't, like, he wasn't working with us. So I was like, all right, that was like, I don't fangirl over athletes just because I work with them. And as a referee, you usually have a different relationship with players, but Zidane, I'm like, come on now, come on. So, but it was cool. And I honestly, there's so much that went on this, right? You had the incredible games of Cape Verde that we hosted, and shout out to Abby, our equipment manager, who actually was helping to press their jerseys and their kits because they were at the training facility at the Rowdies and they didn't know what they were doing. And Abby was huge. So we have more connections into the World Cup than people realize. Abby's also new. She just joined the Sun too from Chicago Stars. So it's incredible to add extra talent into our, staff or, sporting staff. But to be able to tell those stories and tie them back, right? Like whether everyone loved Argentina or they didn't, right? Like everyone had that common foe, right? Our Balogun red card, poor Balogun because it's going to be known as the Balogun rule. And, the guy was class act. He was class act when he received the red card. He was class act after the Belgium game. But then to be on a side where it's not an American audience and it's not an American broadcasting team, to like see their perspective and to agree with their perspective about the competition and the integrity of the game, as we see a lot of those issues still happening at the FIFA level right now with the FFE and all the turmoil. Like it's been fascinating. Our game is at a critical point, but I think we all would have said that, right? The players would have said that. The men's side says that too many games, too much money. Are we losing sight of the purpose of the game? And so that's why I can sit here and talk forever. Actually, let me clarify that. When I got back home, I didn't say the word World Cup for like 4 days until I had to speak at the National Hispanic Journalism Association. So I had a tournament that should not be mentioned just because I needed a reset. But It was great. And I think Tampa had some representatives. Greg with the Lightning, who also does our game host, was the down in Azteca. So he was the game host in Azteca Stadium. So talk about that. Him and I were able to chat a little bit about that. England, Mexico, and Azteca. I've refereed in Azteca before. It's crazy. It's beautiful. So can you imagine that? So we got some really good Tampa folks that had been represented throughout the World Cup. So shout outs to them too as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. I was able to attend a game in Atlanta, and just like, as much as you want to say that American fans don't get it, with the amount of people from everywhere that comes for the World Cup and American fans that do get it, it's great crowds everywhere. And it was a great tournament.
I did appreciate when the Dutch were playing in Houston. Everyone's like, look at all the Dutch fans. And someone's like, no, look at all of the Houston MLS fans. Because it's the same color. And I'm like, that's brilliant. Maybe they didn't buy a Dutch jersey. Maybe they just went on in their Houston jersey at Clinton.
Yeah, that sounds really great. So let's look back a little bit. This is the question I'm going to ask you about last season, and then we can move on and look forward to this season. Sure. What happened? What can we take away from what happened?
It's a great question.
Yeah,
right?
Okay. I have it worded a little bit bigger. What can we take away from what happened, and then how are we are the Sun as an organization under your leadership, like making sure it doesn't happen again? Is kind of like the part there.
Brilliant. So I love that question because it's like in the referee world, like I had this theory called catch and release, right? So if you made a bad decision or something didn't happen where you and your team didn't get it, you can either be like, woe is me, and complain about it, or dwell on the situation, and you're going to miss the next decision, right? You're going to. So you have to catch the moment, release the energy, and take what you can to be able to move forward to be better than what it was, right? So the first year and the second year were incredible for us in our early infantry stage to be able to say what is the high of the highs, which, by the way, like it's just like kind of remind people, like the fall in our first year wasn't that great either, right? We had hurricanes, we had international players with visas who couldn't get through because the league was still being established. Like there were so many things that happened. But at the end of the day, the beauty is people only remember a little star, right? That we got, right? And that's kind of like, I still have to do the catch and release moments for it, right? And then last year was truly just like the low of the low. But it was an incredible group to have a low with. So a good mentor of mine and friend of mine in this world, and funny enough, he used to be my referee, like coordinator person at the Rowdies, Lee Cohen, who's now with Charlotte, Charleston. And he was like, you're only as good as someone you can lose with. And, that was a really interesting way to look at it. Because it was one of those really big self-reflections with technical staff, right? Like medical staff, right? Or sporting staff. Like, how could we how does this happen? And right, there's a myriad of things, right? A friend of mine, or actually just did the new laws, and he used the word like, I hope you guys don't get injuries this season. And we're all like, shut up, like don't use that word. Like that is like the worst word in the professional game, because typically you have between 23 to 25 pro contracts, right? And you get one player down or two players down, or you get a bug and it goes across the thing. Like that impacts your sporting decisions so much. And so one of the things that we did identify is like that was tough coming back from the winning the championship, and then respectfully, like it was so critical for us to have that boat parade to ensure that any professional sports team in Tampa Bay has a boat parade. And so grateful to the mayor and all of the city of Tampa for activating that for us so quickly. But then the players only had 3 weeks off until we came back into market. And launching the plane while flying it in the first year, because I promise you it wasn't pretty, but it was fun, but it wasn't pretty. Like we were so ridiculous. We've learned a lot of stuff, so stressed out, but like then you're like, okay, how do we mentally reset so we don't all get burned out? And not even just the players, the front of house staff, right? Like how do you reset? It's game day all day, every day, doing something new, creating the standards, operatings, the protocols, etc., getting things thrown left and right. So it's like, okay, everyone took a mental break. And then when we came back, it's just like, holy smokes, preseason is here already, right? Where are the players? Like, do they have a medical return to play? Do we know where they're at, etc.? And just everyone was just exhausted. So we entered into preseason, to be quite honest. And it's just one of our biggest self-reflections. It's like, and now we have protocols, which is great, right? To your point, how do we move forward and not sure that happens? Of like, how do we, when we go that far into the tournament or win the thing again, right? Because hey, shout out to like all of you guys who voted for us. Like that was insane, 75%. I was like, great, you put a target on our back again because we're really good at that. But it's okay. Our players would rather rise to that level, particularly the new group too. We literally had to say like, what are the things that we have to put into place, from the medical to making sure in the off season, the people who are like, obviously it's HIPAA stuff, so I can't say, but we had several players who were playing on injuries and prolonged injuries through the first season. That right, pro athlete, not enough of a risk from risking them, but you're just taping them up where they needed that rest and the body to reset. So we did enter last season with just too many of the nagging injuries, too many of the consistency side of it. Right, on paper, we're easily a strong team, middle of the road team. So the talent was there. And we really just think it was like that huge emotional toll, right, that you have. And then how do you keep that continuity? So first is a lot about the psychological. A lot of it comes from the physical side of it. And then honestly, it was just death by a million cuts, right? So if you go back and you look at the statistics, right, like we were tying every freaking game in the fall. And it's like, you guys know it. Sorry, like I'm talking to you guys like you didn't experience the trauma with me. But it's like death by a million cuts. You're like, at this point, I'd rather us like go all in and lose than just tie. But that takes a huge mental toll on it as well. So for us, right, sports psychology was really big last year. I mean, this year, right, already implemented it in the beginning. What are the themes? What are the motives, right? We have a great doctor, sports psychologist, Dr. Lee, with our USF Academic Health, and getting those things into place, because by the time you get to that point where you're physically and mentally exhausted, like I'm going to say it's too late, but it kind of is, right? You're trying to get everyone back on board. So those two learnings, and that's why we had to do a lot of player movements like midway of the year, saying to like, okay, great, this is what we did the first year, right? You can put the team together, you can tweak it, you can see what's working, you can see what's not working, and see if we can retool a little bit for the spring, change the psychology up of the players, right, and be able to help them pick their heads back up. Now, I do need to be very, very clear. Last year's team were incredible human beings, and they got along so well. It was the closest team I've ever been around before. So I think like they bonded through that scenario. So I give them huge shouts, because they still fought, and hopefully you guys felt that too. They still fought every single weekend, right? Even if they went down a goal, they didn't put their heads down, right? Like that was one mantra that they had. They're like, regardless of everything, we're fighting not just for the sun, we're fighting for our fans, we're fighting for the front of house who are like, churning and burning, still trying to keep people coming into the doors, right? Even though maybe the product wasn't performing on the field necessarily. And, finding that nucleus. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? If everyone knew the answer to it, right, everyone would be successful every season. But for us, I think that was kind of the biggest thing, is the physical and the mental toll of the first season, nagged with some injuries coming into it, and then just death by a million. It was like the perfect storm in all the bad ways.
Yeah.
But we learned a lot, and we definitely aren't taking. When you grow, it hurts. So last year was an incredible growing year for us, and so I actually refer it to as our bow and arrow era. So when we go backwards, it's tense. There's friction. It's a struggle. It's a pullback, and so we all internally, not just the sporting, but the front of house, like our theme right now is momentum, right? Like this sprint series is this cool, crazy. Well, I'll just leave it at that. If not, I'll get in trouble. Cool, crazy thing that we get to do in the fall to be like, all right, like let's get that adrenaline. Let's get us up going. Like we got it. We've done it. For lack of a better term, we had more time this off season, and we're back, baby. We're back.
All right. So one of the questions that I have that's kind of been nagging, honestly, is we're transitioning our schedule. We're doing like a shorter sprint season in the fall, and then we're transitioning to the more American
America
calendar of a like March to October, which is kind of interesting when one of the selling points of the league was international calendar. So I just wanted to know how you felt about it.
How long can I hold this smile, Izzy?
All right, not a fan. Good to know.
So this is America, and votes, the majority, super majority win. So you can probably guess where our position was on this. But you know what? You move and roll, right? Like I said, super majority voted on it. So we got to move and shake with it. Yeah, there's pros and cons. I know, right? The roster, and that was kind of touted as one of the main reasons as going through it, and that's a position and perspective people hold. So fairness on that one. I can tell you immediately that impacts international players coming in. That it does. So that was kind of one of our pursuits. And now you saw, right, DAL, or it was Eleanor DAL was announced today. What day? We're in the future now. Remind me again. So yesterday, she was announced yesterday. Sorry about that, guys. So so it was exciting. So we were like, okay, we get it, right? Internationals, right? The time it takes for a visa, 6 weeks, 8 weeks if we're lucky, even with expedited process, just because of the current administration and all that fun jazz. But we were like really intentional about like, are there international players we can bring in now during the summer window? And the summer window is fun and it's chaotic, and you don't know if a player is leaving because, right, it's just not the right scenario for them. They want to transition and they come back into the United States, because even if they're an American player, there's something called the ITC, which is the International Transfer Certificate. So there's a window up to September that we can get them back in before they have to sit and wait. So for us, it was kind of like, okay, it will impact our international players in the sense of we aren't just as free to work with the rest of the world. Like we will have to take people out. It actually, I would argue, kind of creates a scenario where we might have to pay transfer fees, right, to get somebody out of a contract. So, and that's, like I said, not just foreign international players. That is Americans abroad who want to come back into the United States who have an ITC tied to a member association. So that's a little bit unfortunate, to be quite honest, because I think there's a lot of great American talent who've been playing in the A-League, who've been playing in right, Sydney was playing in the Turkish league, right? Like that are out and about who are now just hitting some of their primes, meaning they got their book minutes in, they got their pro legs underneath them. So that is one of the negatives, to be quite honest, is that I don't think it helps us in that kind of a level. One of the positives, though, is, right, yes, we are aligned with NWSL. Yes, is there a lot of talent that is sitting on these NWSL rosters who are not getting book minutes, who are not getting playing minutes, right? So we always say in the pro world, it's not your first contract, it's your second contract that matters, right? So if you're just sitting on the bench and or not making the practice or not making the 18 or whether the travel or home, and you're getting a couple minutes here and there, when you go back and you look for contracts, right, the NWSL team is going to either be like, yeah, I love you, you're a glorified practice player, you help elevate a game, but you haven't gotten there yet. Or they say, thanks, but no thanks. And then people like me look at it and be like, am I still inheriting a development product? Right? Like, and no problem. There's just a certain amount of spots from a strategic standpoint that we say professional player develop, right? Another development player that maybe we can do a transfer and get them going and that kind of a thing. And so it gives the opportunity. So the NWSL GMs, they're all awesome, to be quite honest, right? For us, it's the bigger game, right? Regardless of what leagues do, for us, it's about developing our players, bringing the best talent in, more opportunities for all players, regardless of where they play. You'll see some stuff in today or tomorrow, whatever that world looks like. That gives us that opportunity to kind of do those types of a things. So we can align better when it comes to those loans. Cause like whenever we've done an NWSL loan, it is like a weird quasi half season, right? Like we love Liz Beardsley and her loan is till the end of the season. So it's just, or end of this calendar. So then you have to get back into negotiations and it's a new budget and all of that stuff. So it does help with the alignment of the NWSL. And really, if you look at it from that angle and that perspective, the players that helps more is obviously the American players coming out of the college environment. So it does strengthen the American system. And I don't know if you guys remember, even though it was never stated, the NWSL for the first 10 years was solidly like, you must play in the NWSL if you want to play on the U.S. national team. And that is just from other people's voices who have said that, right? So it does strengthen our U.S. talent pool in that respect. I think for the betterment of the U.S. national team. But yeah, like I said, there's pros and cons in any decision you make. So at the end of the day, like you receive what you're given and you make the best out of it.
Yeah, that's some good insight. We had talked about it as well with internationals coming into the team and American players coming back. I mean, you like Kennedy White as well. So that's a definitely interesting thing that you're tackling now. More big picture about the league then. There's a blog in Dallas that was writing about the ownership change over there called Third Degree, and they quote in the article that they wrote that the new Dallas ownership, quote, feels like the tenor of governance from USL HQ has changed in the league since the inception of it. And do you feel similarly? They were extremely optimistic about where the league can go, and this isn't just the season changing, although maybe that allows for more northern teams to join the league, and it's not great for us Florida teams, so we already have 3. Maybe that's okay.
I was like, has anyone played football in the summer in Florida? I was like, go talk to Orlando. Like, clearly.
But, overall, are you seeing that the league office, I mean, you've talked about what you've learned. Are you seeing the league is improving year over year in that same way? Not getting into details, but just in your experience.
Yeah. I mean, it's like anything, right? If we're in the same position we are in year 0 and that we are going into year 3, then yeah, we have issues, right? And so every single one of us from clubs to leagues have grown. And so I think that's been the beauty of having been here since the inception and having been in the first, right, board of governors meetings and having seen new ownership changes and or having seen decisions made in rooms and, the talent that comes in and out. I'm talking about staff, right? And investments and the perspective of it. We should be growing and we should be advancing. So we're not where we were in year 0 or year 1. So that's progress, right? I think right now what we haven't yet felt, which we're all more excited about, is because what a lot of people don't realize, and I was just talking to some European groups, right, where they're doing like MCOs and multi-club ownerships, and they're bringing it in and they're trying to like understand the American side of sports. I'm like, you got to understand the business models are completely different, right? The NWSL and MLS are completely structured differently than USL is. And once you understand that, then you understand essentially what their, KPIs or key performance indexes are for the league and that side of it, right? So more of your American sports, not just American soccer, but MLB, NFL, et cetera, the league reports to the clubs, right? In our structure, we have it, the clubs report to the league. So, and that's just a different business structure. Pros and cons both ways. I can tell you that for a fact. But that's where we're looking at. So when you have probably more of the strategic business investment side of it, and you can see where the track and, they were very, very clear on their strategy side of it, of saying we're focusing a lot on building in communities that, right, either one, don't have sports teams. Like, how do we build the culture in a community that doesn't have a sports team, let alone a soccer team, which I think is brilliant, right? We're seeing some incredible stuff with Boise and what they're doing over there, and the numbers that they're drawing, right? But then it's also tied a lot to the real estate development, which that's what we're doing too, right? It's like, there's a reason I said yes to the project. The insight from Daryl Shaw, we haven't been shy of where our aspirations have been. And I know stadiums are one of the biggest things. And once again, that's one of the reasons I said yes to it, because if you don't have a right stadium in a right place, like, you can't grow that team. But that's a lot of where USL is focused. And it's not wrong, because we see the Battery doing it, right? In Atlanta, you see the Rays now petitioning and showing exactly when you can tie the sports into a bigger development deal, that's what makes sense. And so when you take a look and you see at who's investing into the USL overall, it is a lot of individuals who understand more of that bigger picture, because that's what gives you stability. It's very hard to just prop up a team by itself in the middle. And that's why it was important for us when we did our temporary stadium right now. And we made sure we was at Blake High School. Shout out to Suncoast Credit Union Field. They be able to do that saved us from having to spend a lot of money in putting a stadium somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And that's unfortunately what happens, is you have a lot of operational costs out without the value back in. And if you do a development like that, then it's not as difficult to be able to continue to sustain. You got foot traffic and to sustain a sport, let alone 2 professional sport teams, plus third parties playing in a stadium venue.
Yeah.
So this one might be a little bit out of left field, but it was something that I was kind of noodling around the other day. We are the only team in the league that does not have a men's affiliate team now that Atletico Dallas has bought Trinity. Do you think that has put the Sun at a disadvantage?
No. So one of our biggest, and it's funny because I was talking to the European team where there's a mindset over there that we're trying to change, saying that you have to be tied to a men's team to be successful. So as everything, I feel like that might be the title of this thing, is pros and cons, right? Right. You can have some of the pros on the back end on the staff of saying, okay, like for example, there's another club, won't be named, that has a men's and a women's team, and they have 7 ticket account executives. Everyone's like, that's a lot. I'm like, yeah, they also have a men's team, right? So now you're looking at a total of 28 games plus whatever, no offense to USL Championship, how many games they play. There's enough in my brain. So shout out to Ryan, the Rowdies. But that's a lot of stuff that goes on. So you're able to use some of the back end, but at the same time, inevitably what happens is when it comes to bandwidth, one of the teams will be sacrificed. Historically, it's always been the women's team. Let's just be honest, particularly if you play in the same stadium, right? And I can say that because I've experienced it, I've seen it, I've witnessed it, the whole thing. Not saying each time, right? There's equal investment. I really like what Lexington does. Always have liked their project. Once again, it's a stadium development deal. If you take a look at the bigger plan in the picture there, and the facilities that they've been able to do. So to do it correctly, you do have to build effectively 2 different training facilities, right? You have to be effectively respectful. I think the first club in the United States that I thought did that to a certain level that we were all impressed was Portland, right? So when they had the Portland Thorns, all of a sudden everything got rebranded, and it didn't feel like the Portland Thorns were playing in the Portland Timbers Stadium. It actually felt like the Portland Thorns Stadium on game day, which is so, so important. So for me, one of the pros is when you have 2 of them, if you have 2 different assets, but then also when you sell partnerships, you usually end up bundling that. And so it's where does that money go to? And it's interesting in our league where USL Championship being professional Division 1 and USL Championship being Division 2 is that your costs are higher in the women's side, right? And so, because your floor is lower in the sense of minimum contracts, et cetera. Like the USLPA just went through their bargaining unit with the championship, and they were reflecting on USL. This is this is how I know we've kind of almost made it, because the men were pointing to the women's standards as being we want those standards. So I'm like, holy hell, where are we? Right? Even North Carolina, where they folded the men's team, unfortunately, to keep the women's team alive because of the profitability. I was like, oh, I didn't think I'd see that in my lifetime, right? So there's pros and cons in having both of them. I love the fact that we're incredibly focused and dialed in. And I used to have this saying when I first started that I want to build Tampa Bay Sun will be a global leader in women's professional soccer, and got some really good counseling saying that's a really crazy huge goal. I'm like, hell yeah. Why would I keep it lower? And then they're like, no, sometimes we got to break it down so people can feel like they've achieved goals along the way. I'm like, all right, fine. So we are, Tampa Bay Sun is, the women's professional sports that is the leader in the Tampa Bay region, right? And so we get to focus on that, owning eBoard, et cetera, without respectfully another distraction. So I think in the future, having a men's asset side with us in a stadium is critically important so that we can be able to generate the revenue out of the stadium to support the costs of maintaining a stadium. But for right now, there is no need to have a men's side attached to us. Mind you, Ryan and I would love if we could, because then we could claim that we can't play. I need to correct the record where everyone thinks like the Rowdies and the Sun hate each other. We absolutely do not. Ryan and I love each other to pieces. We advocate and we go to war for you guys because we are like, we do not want the games on the same day. We are splitting our fans, right? We're impacting ticket sales, which obviously is revenue back to the league. We are very adamant about that. But as you can imagine, scheduling, shout out to the league. I would never want that job. Ever, ever. And that is probably one of the hardest. So shout out to Sydney and her team, Chris and Sydney. That is not a flattering job whatsoever because everyone's got an opinion when they should play. So, but yeah, shout out to them. And also just clarifying the record. We do not hate each other. We love you guys. We try incredibly hard to make sure we have no conflicts. And guess what? This fall, no excuses, no conflicts. Eat it. You better come.
Yes,
might not happen again, but we definitely are trying it.
All my Rowdies fans who were like, "Oh, this Conflicts of the Sun game, I'm not gonna go to it." And I'm like, "No,
I know, right?
No,
Liz,
can't do it this year."
We survive with our fans, our community, our culture. So it's just like, getting the fan section fully loaded. Like you guys, it was crazy. We had an intern, we had a lunch today, and an intern that was with us that we didn't know. He's been there since game one, huge Sun fan before he interned with us. He on his phone was showing me the first game, right? The walkout, like it's crazy to see how many people. He showed me the first goal, right? Where Henny scored from a head. That might have been the last header goal. Go figure. But Henny scored to the head right in front of your guys' fan section. And just like that whole side was full and it exploded. I'm like, let's go. How do we get everyone back on board, right? Because what I think people don't realize, and I think even the Leeds Wrexham game that we had, and if you see the Leeds United fans, right? Like, because Wrexham fans, let's just be honest, are all Americans. Here is like it's the fans that do the entertainment. Where I think in American sports, particularly in Tampa right now, they're expecting to be entertained by the club and the thing. And don't get me wrong, like we'll put up the jazz and all the fun stuff and all that good stuff that we're working on. But like that's what makes soccer or football, as the rest of the world calls it, unique, is you guys and you guys having that fan section filled out. And none of that's lost on Ryan and I or our teams about how important and critical it is that you guys are the 12th player on the field, right? The players can feel it. I always say so intimate on that side because you literally, and please don't, but you guys literally could touch a player. Please don't, because I want to keep you guys coming back. But it just, that's not, you can't get that at other sporting events. You just can't get that at other sporting events. So shout out to you guys for keep doing that and keep introducing the club to new people and bringing them in, right? Like I know where our team's growing with you guys on that one, but like, yeah, I'm excited for that stuff. So yeah, you know what? No worries. Like we we love the Rowdies. They love us. We both won our inaugural championships. We're Tampa Bay. Like it ain't going away anytime soon. But yeah, I love that I get to focus on, I wouldn't say perfecting, but putting our systems and our processes in place. Another thing talking to the players is like championships are not our goal, to be quite honest. Championships are not our goal. Our goal is to create systems and processes that championships are a result of the process that we put in. So basically it is a product of it, because I'm sitting here thinking, once again, probably too many steps ahead of like, we win the USL championship. Great. Now we're competing against an NWSL team. No problem. But now we're going to CONCACAF club championships, right? And then there's FIFA championships. So if we create those systems, those products, the FIFA, the Tampa Bay way, what we expect from a professional, how they show up, how they hold themselves accountable, how they hold the team accountable, how they hold the club accountable, all in obviously a professional way to move forward. And we create those processes in place and become, like we say, Barcelona. We know exactly what that looks like, right? On the men's and the women's side, right? Same thing. How do we create our DNA so that championships are just an out product, like an effect of what we're doing? So those are the things we get to like lay in and put our railroad tracks in right now.
Okay, well, I'm ready to run through brick wall. Thank you. So we can zoom in. I mean, you already started a little bit. We can zoom in on the Sun going into this season. You spoke with us last time about working to sell players on the Super League when it was brand new, and that there was sometimes like even convincing that you had to do and showing facilities and things like that. So we already talked a little bit. American players coming back to the US. They're now, in the last 2 days, the Sun have announced 2 England players that are coming over. That I thought it was really interesting that one of them had a contract offer to play in the Women's Super League too, and she chose to come here as well. Is it the right place and the right time for those specific players, or is it getting easier to sell the Super League and sell the Tampa Bay Sun to these players abroad? Because I've always framed, when we talk about the league and the transfers overall, the Super League exists to give players an opportunity to play in the United States that wouldn't have had that opportunity otherwise. And
Mhm.
we constantly talk about players that are going overseas out of college because they're not making the NWSL, and that was their only option. So yeah, has that gotten easier in terms of getting players in, and just, kind of what are your thoughts on building a roster into this third season?
Yeah, no, it has gotten easier, and we knew and we expected it to get easier, and I don't blame them, right? So whether they're Americans who wanted to come back or internationals who were curious, right? Because we do have a lot of incredible minimum standards that are their professional athletes, and not just name alone, but in actually the resources and their salaries that they're receiving is. And like I said, I don't blame them. We've seen leagues go up and we've seen leagues fold, right? And so all of them were just kind of holding their breath. Like, what's it going to look like after the first year? Is it going to survive after the second? I'm not going to say, because like it happened, unfortunately, with the WUSA and WPS. And I was active in the women's professional game since the WPS era. So like we've seen it every 3 years, right? Is it a viable business model from a league and a club perspective in order to continue to exist? And justifiably so, like the players have those legitimate concerns. It's their career. They got about a solid 10 to 15 years of playing, right? 15 on a great night and a great time. So in the beginning, it was a little bit difficult to get some of those talented players who might have had more of a secure contract or more in an established league to maybe say, hey, let's come back. They said, let's figure it out, right? And so that's made it easier. Really, really pride the overall club and sporting and the front of house for creating an environment. And I mean, it's just really cool to hear, because like honestly, this is the first year I've been able to use the word year over year when we talk about business and finance and our budget. I'm like, oh my god, we got year over year, right? The first year's like throw spaghetti on the wall, see what sticks. Second year we're like, oh, I think that's still sticking, right? But like now we actually get to like build out what is a true year for us, right? Because the first year is always an anomaly, right? And then the second year we keep that, we keep building and scaling it. But from the player standpoint, they have more confidence in the league, right? The CBA that is out and about, that still has to be ratified, right? That gives more confidence into it. So very happy that that there's a CBA and the USLPA was able to come to terms. I find that critically important, and I pride the league and the owners of the clubs for not ever fighting that, by the way. Like usually those things are always fought. They said, nope, we want it, we encourage it. Like I said, there's so many owners on this side who I've seen and I've heard their words, and I've more importantly witnessed their actions, who actually care about the players and ensuring that we keep minimum standards. So I think by seeing that and seeing the investments and people kind of really appreciating, understanding it, like I remember I was asked my first year by a lot of people in the NWSL saying like, what do you think about the league? I'm like, I think we're like in year 5 or 6 of the NWSL in our first year. Right. Like, and don't get me wrong, NWSL in its first 10 years was so conservative because of the concern of like losing and the viability. And so there's no criticism on that. It's just, we were at such a point, and pros and cons once again to that as to scaling so quickly is that like, is the business model yet there? So that security gives the players the ability to want to say they want to come back. It gives and I'm always, that's probably my problem, is I'm like overly, like, I think it was like a realism optimistic. It was something from Adam Grant, was awesome. But it's just like I don't have any concerns of saying like, yeah, I can issue you a 2.5-year contract. Like we can do this. There's a club option, the women's game is now starting, and this is where a lot of the agents and the players are starting to get there, right? Because a lot of the time in the women's game, people just want 1-year contracts, right? No club options, mutual option. And that just, it makes it really hard for us from a strategy standpoint to say, here's our development. A rookie's going to take about 2 years. Like, how do we get their legs underneath them? So like now that they're kind of seeing that there's a future, and we're seeing transfer money. I forgot what FIFA's latest statement on the women's game for transfer. It's only been the past 2 years, really. They now see that like a 3-year guaranteed contract is actually a good thing. And in a weird way, we kind of don't want them to live out their 3-year contract from like just a football business side. Because you want to start transferring them out in their 3rd year, right? But to do that, you obviously have to have scouting and have players in, the pipeline. And then you have your solid pros that are going to be here longer and all that fun stuff. So I just love it because the women's game has grown. Everything we said was going to happen, that people said, I don't believe you, or the women's game doesn't do that. I'm like, hold my wine. Like, I got this, right? So, I get it from like a fan perspective saying like, hey, Cecilia Flo, right, scored a game-winning goal. Like, what are you doing? And it's just like, there's also a little bit of a player perspective, right, of where they want to be and where they, et cetera. But it's just like knowing that talent, like, there's something called sell-on fees, right? So it's not their next contract to Napoli, but what's that sell-on fee? And now she's in Wolfsburg, right? And so there's a huge business line going on there, which is great, right? Player progresses, she gets into a bigger league, and then the clubs that invested in someone early on benefit from that, which then helps the player budget, right? To be able to invest in other players in the future. So, Tosh Flint, another one, right? Opportunity for her to go into the NWSL. Like, it's hard to deny somebody that, particularly knowing how short their life is on as a professional athlete. It's crazy to think that, but there's a way that everyone can kind of, get to that point where it's like when I was doing litigation, like we always said in mediation, everyone should leave and not everyone's happy, but a deal is done. That's how you know you got a good deal. If one group's really happy and the other one's really sad, something wrong happened there. So kind of the same thing, like you can get to some terms. And yeah, I know I got beaten up quite a lot by the Sun Chasers on the Tosh Flint one, but you know what? It's girls doing good. There's some kickers in there. So everyone pray to God she scores another goal. I won't tell you what it is exactly, but it helps us on this end. So we've been big fans of it. So I think it's just a cool space to be in. There's security, there's comfort, and there's a business model, and professional athletes are now on the women's side are now understanding what makes the men's game insane. I'm a huge Leeds fan. We just paid way too much money for a goalkeeper, in my opinion. But those transfer numbers, those didn't all start at that number either, right? Early 90s, they started where we're at. And there's progress in this future that we can do that too. And I think it's going to accelerate a lot quicker than the men's game.
Nice. All right. So I know you touched on it a little bit before, saying that the goal is not necessarily to win, but to build the processes that make it so that we win. But obviously,
we're competitive as hell still. We're still competitive.
Oh yeah. We're obviously still gonna win it all, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
But what are your personal goals this season?
Ooh, for the club or for me, myself, and I?
Ooh, both.
Both, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I know.
You gave me an option. I want both.
I know. I know. It's so shocker, right? Let's see here. For the club, it's really it's weird to say because it's still 14 games in total, right? 7 home games, semifinal and a final. But for us, we're really keyed into how do we, and even our fan surveys, et cetera. It's this half season series, sprint series. It matters. Okay, it's going to matter, particularly from a financial standpoint. It matters, right? There's still dollars in, dollars out. But we're so curious. It's a psychological thing for us to be how can we tweak our model? How can we make the experience better for the fan? How do we bring in new food opportunities and revenue? So that's one of the biggest ones. And I'm sorry, I can't change the referee. So please stop submitting surveys on that. This is this cool 6-month period where from the front of house side of it, how do we make it bigger and better, right? These incredible conversations with marketing right now, right? So everyone please come to the watch party this Saturday at Coppertail. So as we kick off, as we play against Dallas, right? How do we create more of those organic things? We're learning a lot from you guys as well, right? Our demographic of our fans, a lot in St. Pete, some in North Tampa, some not even in Tampa. So it's just what's a watch party that can help meet all? Or how do we do watch parties in different locations? So it's just for us, it's that continuous tweak of our engagement with our community. Right? We've said that from day one, but it's how do we create a community? And I love to hear the Sun Chasers who were I didn't know so-and-so until I sat next to them. And now we're best friends and we hang out outside of games. I'm that's it. Right. And they're from different walks of life and different backgrounds and different careers. And that is what gets people to come back. Right. That's where gyms have it is community, right? Community. And I really, truly mean it. So our personal goals for the front of house side of it is how do we create such an organic, in Tampa, everyone, there's a million things you can get me entertained by, as long as it doesn't rain, right? There's a million things you can be entertained by. So how do we continue to build that? Because the reality is we need to get to a point, and in this fall, we have the road to 3,000, right? So we were averaging about 2,000 people coming through this the turnstile on the first year, and then that significantly dropped off the second year, right? And how do we get back to a road to 3,000? How do we use this fall to get back to 3,000 people? Because our place is buzzing. One of my favorite places to referee in was San Jose, and people were why? I'm I literally would be sitting there refereeing and yelling at Megan Rampino, and less than 5 feet away there was a little fan sitting there eating popcorn, and I'm oh my god, they can hear everything we're saying, right? So I'm let's take that back. But it was such an intimate, cool environment. And that's what we have right now. And I think that's probably one of the coolest things I hear from people who aren't even soccer fans, who are just like, hey, I came, I heard the buzz. It's incredible. The atmosphere is electric. And I was like, God, and you had any, and that was from last year. And I was like, I love that people showed. Like, one of our highest games was our last game, right? We clearly were out, right? And we still in the spring had some of our highest sold games, right? Our Pride Night, women's empowerment night, our last game. Those are some of our biggest games. And I'm like, that's cool, where you can build a community that's going to show up and show out, even if maybe we're having an off season. And that's what you want to be at, right? Where that is the core team. Now, the personal goals for the sporting side is just that. It's like, yes, we have a championship. Yes, Denise is tweaking and moving through the player profile. And as you can see through a lot of the roster changes and the roster movements. And that's always the hard part until the players, like the hardest part of my job on the GM hat side is I always have to look to get the best players on the team, right? People can be incredible at the end of the day. Like, how do we always level up? And I always I'm like, challenge me to not be able to level up from you. Like, make it so ridiculously hard I can't find someone to level up from you, because I would rather keep you than have to, figure out some moves. And so I know for her right now, once again, the word is momentum. And, I talked to the front of house staff. It's like, how do you pick your March Madness picks? All right. I pick my March Madness picks based on momentum going in. Some people pick mascots. That's cute too. But I pick momentum going into the basketball tournaments, the men and the women's March Madness, right? So it's like, for us, we see these 6 months of how do you get a new crop where you have a little bit over 70% of a roster change, get them going, get them understanding the tactics. I'm telling you, like, it's kind of funny where we laugh, where we have a little PTSD from last year. So and then and like the group looks at us like, what are they talking about? We're like, oh, they don't know. They weren't here last year. Like, brilliant, right? So it's just like, it's all of our systems are in place. Now, how do we get this team? How do we get them gelled going together? I think this fall is going to be incredible. I've had the honor of being able to see the three, well, actually, the season ticket game against USF. I actually ended up talking to fans and never got in, but I got this video. But the first, closed door scrimmages, like, this is exciting, guys. This is an exciting fall. There's going to be some incredible momentum. And that's the thing, is how do we gel getting ready for the 2027 season? Like I said, not that the 2026 doesn't matter, but the 2027 is a true season, right? With 28 games. And it's just like, how do we get them going and peaking so that, like, we're consistent and we're a rock? So then our future roster movements aren't as much of a major roster reconstruction. There are, like, the tweaking, et cetera. And that's where you can see, like, Carolina didn't have to do too much on their roster construction, right? So it's like getting into that space, into that place to be able to do that. And that's really what we're pushing. So those are the goals of the club. My personal goal is to try to appreciate the moment. I'm so bad. I literally am the worst. Like, everyone's like, do you remember the championship? I'm like, yeah. Like, as soon as we won, I was like, shit, now I got to do a boat parade. And so, like, I don't really ever sit in the moment. And that's what I'm trying to get a little bit better at, and to, like, get back into, like, a Zen state where, like, if I'm not going and getting a workout in the morning, right? Like, how can I take care of everybody else if I'm not taking care of myself? So for me, it's just a matter of, like, it's never going to end. There's some times where I just laugh and I text our Majorio and I'm like, hey, you sure you want to manage this lot, right? Like, some random thing that's not anywhere in my bingo card happens. If you haven't watched Tipping Point by Kate Hudson, that is truly my life right there. That's a real thing. Because so many random things happen, but that's what makes it exciting. Like, not every single day is the same. Even if you have all your meetings planned out, things go crazy. So for me, it's just a matter about how do I centralize myself, get myself operating at a high performance level, because I need to be there for everybody else in what we do. So that's a personal goal for me this fall, because I kind of threw that out the door in, like, the past 2.5 years. Got to get it back.
I was going to say, just delegate some duties and come hang out with us in the heat wave for a game.
Delegate some duties. All right. Yeah, I need the directors to hear that. I'm delegating some duties. I'm like, good luck.
Yeah, I'm sure you're very, very busy on game day, but it's always a treat when you come by anyways. So
I was saying, I've seen you prioritizing yourself. You ran a 5K, a marathon, a something.
I forgot what I ran. Yeah, there's actually
involved.
No, I did the bike side of it. So we did a triathlete.
Okay.
So Alex, who was an intern fellow who's coming off, he's a Green Beret, who's coming off of military. We made him do the swimming. And then our game day production person from audio, Leslie, she did the running and I did the biking.
Okay. Yeah, but that's great. That's awesome.
I know. I was like, well, we'll get it done. So we're like, what weirdos? And then I think we all had, like, I don't know. I think we had, like, a Sun game the day before or something. And then we did, like, the St. Joseph's triathlon. We're like, we're weird, but it's fine. It's fine.
Great. Well, I think that's all I had. Liz, did you have any other questions?
No. Will we see you at Coppertail on Saturday?
Yes. Funny enough, Dallas asked me if I was coming over because I wanted to be like, obviously the Neal family, really close and dear. And they're like, you coming? And I was like, I really want to, but I want to be with our Sun Chasers. It's our opening game. I'm like, we're going, let's do it. Let's talk offline. Those are always the fun combos. Because then I can't get in trouble. And yeah, just really enjoy each other's company as we get like, we want you guys to feel as excited as we feel. I know we get to like cook in the background. You guys have no idea. And you're like, when is all this coming? I'm like, be quiet. I'm waiting for the player agreement from the league. That's why you don't know anybody. I can tell you this sprint series threw a lot of things into, we had a beautiful plan and then we're just going to have to pocket that and use that for 2027. But yeah, no, it'll be great to connect with all of you guys. And thank you guys again for just covering the Sun and being part of us. And I know Emily, if I don't ask, Emily, shout out is to our admin who like harasses you guys all the time, which is brilliant. She probably is on Twitter right now because she knows that I'm on this thing. But she says, get your chance in, fill the stadium. September 12th, show up. Let's go. Like we got to fill that stadium. That's just who we are. We're Tampa Bay, baby.
Yeah. We're working on it. We know you guys are doing your part too. We appreciate you coming on. This has been super enlightening. I'm glad we could get into some dirt and then we could leave it with some, with some positivity. And it's, I mean, what we saw in the scrimmage and what we heard because we couldn't make it, but what we heard about the scrimmage was that it was really promising.
We sent my boyfriend went and he took meticulous notes like down to how many corners we took. Yeah. So like we got a good preview. We're very excited.
I'm getting like text from somebody. I was like, do we score this much usually? I was like, that's a great thing to hear. I was like, we're just gonna let them believe this is our normal status quo.
It's always like this.
No, it's gonna be. It's gonna be.
For sure. This is our norm. Like that's our norm.
All right. Well, Christina, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Of course.
We will see you at Coppertail. We'll see you throughout the season. What Liz and I are doing, I think both Florida away trips, right? This year.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I love it. Like I said,
we're gonna do our darndest to do Fort Lauderdale. That's for sure.
By the way, huge shout! Like any away game we have, we always have a Sun fan. It's the greatest thing, and like they always get on TV. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, it's sad sometimes when we have more Sun fans than others. But like secretly, I'm proud of it. I wish like every stadium was full, right? Like that's the goal. But yeah, shout out to all the Sun fans that show up and show out and wear Sun gear. Yeah, and hopefully you guys like the new jersey launch. Like that was.
Oh my god, I love it!
Yeah,
it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, thanks for your patience on it. We're trying to get the product in, so that's not on us. But we'll get you guys the stuff. But we're glad you guys loved it. We're like, we can't hold it anymore. Like we got to go public with it. So I'm glad you guys loved it. So some fun excitement stuff coming down the thing. So keep you guys on your toes.
Yes. Well. We look forward to a good season, and anytime you want to come back on, just let us know. We'll have you back. But otherwise,
sounds good.
We'll see you around.
All right, take care. Bye, all.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. As always, thank you, Christina, for coming on the show. We always appreciate you giving us the lowdown on where everything is at. But Liz, it's game week. We're here. We're back. Off season is over. So. Who do we play on Saturday?
We're playing Dallas, which feels really appropriate because they were our very first match in the very first season. They were our last match, I think that's season 2. Dallas feels like a rival for sure. So this will be a fun one, especially because they've had a lot of turnover.
It is crazy. So, as we already mentioned at the top of the show, we will be at the watch party for the Sun are hosting at Coppertail Brewing. The name I definitely didn't just forget. And the game is at 8:30. Theoretically, the watch party is going to start around 8. Show up sometime in the middle, and we will be signing autographs, as we said. But in terms of the game itself, Dallas, I think, is the only team in the league that turned over more than we did. And their turnover isn't just their players. It's not even just their coach. They literally changed ownerships this season. So it is very interesting to see where they will be at organizationally. Now, that isn't the team on the field. The team on the field is somewhat of a known quantity. They have players that we know returning. They have players that have exited, and they have new signings that some of which are notable. So there is movement, and I don't know how it's all going to come together. The new head coach is Lee Win. Used to play for FC Dallas and also has a couple national team caps, but this is his first full-time head coaching job after being an assistant at 4 or so teams since 2021. So he's bounced around a little bit as an assistant. He's seen a lot of different managerial styles under different head coaches, but this is the first time he's taking the gig as the head coach by himself, and he has a majority new roster. So it's not even like the players. Now, there are still leaders in the locker room and things like that that should help establish the culture and things like that. But he's a new coach coming into a majority new locker room, and he has to put roots down. He has to build that. And so I'm thinking that we have a very variable shot here. Do we get a beginner's luck? It all comes together perfectly how he wants it, and everything works out, and we face a tough team? Or do we get maybe some growing pains and some struggles as he gets into his positioning and gets a first competitive game of experience under his belt? I think that'll be really interesting to see. I thought that Dallas was cooked when their departures came out. Davison, Wisner, Thornton, all leaving. Those are huge names for Dallas, basically franchise players, in my opinion. They're 3 of the players I could name on Dallas, essentially. So that was kind of surprising. But when we look at who left the Sun, when we look at who left some of the other teams in the league, maybe it's not so surprising. Maybe this was just a high turnover season because we're switching schedules after this, because the first, the 2-year contracts that may have started at the beginning of the league were expiring. So maybe it wasn't that crazy. And then they added Argentinian international Sophia Braun. They added Ali Cook. They added Felicia Knox. And then I was like, oh, it's not that bad for Dallas. They actually have a really great incoming class, I guess, incoming players there. So I am very interested to see how they line up. And also I'm interested to see how we line up. We only had one public scrimmage, and we got the report on that from Mike last week. Sounds very promising. There's some players in there. I was especially encouraged by hearing about Sam Kroger's work in the midfield with Lystra. That sounds like a great partnership that they can establish. We talked about the midfielders earlier in this episode that we added. And I think that's where we're going to make or break early on, controlling the ball in the midfield, having progressive attacking. This is what we were missing. And then having a striker on the end that can finish it. I can't name you a prospective lineup. I mean, Liz, do you even want to give it a try? Yeah.
No, it's I feel like it's a dice roll. I don't feel like we have a lot of like quote unquote second string right now, or super subs even. Like maybe this goalkeeper we get, I might be, like you said, that might be like our third string, so that might be an obvious one, but that's about it, honestly. Everyone else, it seems like they could start, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. I thought I would come into this episode saying, look, we retained Bissett, we retained Hendricks. We have this core of the back line that we've had now for 3 years in a row, 3 seasons in a row, and that will be who we start. And then we signed that same core from Brooklyn, essentially. And so are we going with the players that started every game for Brooklyn in the back line and in the defensive midfield? Or are we going for the players that started every game or almost every game for the Sun? Or are we mixing that up? And then in mixing it up, is there going to be issues? I mean, obviously that's what preseason is for, and that's what the team getting acclimated with each other. And, from the media day photos, it looks like they're having a good time and they're, enjoying the company and getting to know each other. So, that good vibes is good, but we need it to be on the field clicking,
Okay. But you know what I just heard? I just heard, oh no, do we start with our really good starters, or do we start with the other team's really good starters? Oh no, my steak, too juicy, my lobster, too buttery.
Well, but both of those defenses did not make the playoffs last year.
Would you hush your face?
So, but I will say Dallas also barely scraped into playoffs last year and lost in the first round. Well, there's 2 rounds, but lost. So who's to say that one of us has to figure out what's working? I don't expect it to be a blowout. I expect it to be a close game. We both have a lot to figure out. I would love to see the Sun figure it out first and get off to a good start this season with a win or a draw away. I think a draw would be acceptable, but it's not a lot of games in the season. You want to turn draws into wins really quickly. It's pretty much 1 or 2 games drawing that I would find kind of acceptable for considering like we want to be at the top of the league. You can't lose that many games this season and expect to be in the top 4 come playoff time.
Yeah,
And
considering last year's home record, like it's a new squad, it's a new everything and all that fun stuff. But like last year's home record was not great, so yeah, we need every point we can get.
Yes. Okay, I'm prepared to make a brave prediction. You ready?
Okay.
Sidney Nacella will start the game.
Wow!
Shocking.
You definitely. You know what? Do you know how much money you'll win on Polymarket with that bet?
Like 3 cents.
Yeah, really.
My actual score prediction, because nobody knows what's going to happen, is 2-1 Sun. I'm an optimist. It's all sunshine and rainbows over here. Liz, what do you got?
I'm a little more pragmatic. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. I think it might be, just the game to figure each other out. We don't have any game tape to review. Normally, you can like at least in the week 2, you can watch week 1's gameplay from, when they play, whoever Jacksonville plays. They can pull that game tape. They have something to review. So I think this one might be a little bit harder to predict, a little bit harder to have like a true game plan going in. So I'm going to say 1-1 draw because I feel like we can hold them off.
Yeah. Eureka would agree with you. Super producer Eureka is also predicting a 1-1 draw. And James, our writer, 2-1 loss. What is that? What kind of energy is that starting to see? That's why you're not on the show. That's why they make you write. I'm just kidding. James is 10 times the soccer watcher.
That's why they make you review the men's soccer.
That's why you're on the Rowdy show. Well, a lot of unknowns, but a lot of excitement, I would say. A new season, a short season. It's going to be over very quick. So let's try to appreciate every game as it comes. And the first one's coming up real soon. Liz, you want to take us out of here?
Go Sun.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.